together. But in the process of doing the prototyping, I discovered that my platform, or maybe it's the Coop, is just a little out of square, and would have to shift the platform a little bit to get the backside to line up, because I wanted to put plywood right behind the face frames of the nesting boxes. And I had a little gap on one end and a big gap on the other end. So I had to make a parallelogram out of the base. You know, that's one of those little rectangle on an edge, you know, leaned over a little bit. And to do that, I had to take a little bit of a triangular slice out of the base so I could pitch it a little bit to get it to fit. Of course, that means shop work. Running back and forth, carry the piece over, carry it back, and then piddle around and piddle around and piddle around. So that was a whole lot of playing around in the shop. And then, of course, I had to start figuring out how everything was going to fit, and then I had to nail it down or screw it down as it is. And then I've got to figure out, you know, how to start putting it all together. So I had to come up with, you know, a little bit of this stuff. I had some left over and had to trim that a little bit. And I also had left over laying in the garden bed some tin from a raised bed that I took apart. So I decided to pick that up and clean it off, you know, spray it down with the hose. And then, oddly enough, it fit without trimming right here. So put a whole bunch of screws in it so it's solid. And then we can come up to the point where I need to put on siding. To do that, I need to add nailers. Enclose it so it starts to look more like a coop and less like an open air market. Then I changed my mind. I realized that I probably wanted to cover this section here, the service area, because I'd be storing things there. And then we had a rain and the interior of my nesting box got wet. And then when I looked at my ladder for the chickens to get to the roost, that was exposed too. So I had to go buy another panel and put up long ones here. And I know somebody's asking, what about this ladder thing? Well, To make the ladder, I dumped all my scraps left over from the nesting boxes out on the table and started figuring out how to square the ends and set up some kind of a rung system, and I had a couple of 1x2s left over. After I built that one, I thought, why don't I build another one to get from the floor to the nesting boxes? So I had to mill out a little bit of the material for the long rails, and then I still had enough leftover material that I could make another ladder. So I did. Another thing that I did was I had built an original access panel to go here, and it was too small. I couldn't get the buckets out. So I set it aside. I really hated to throw it away. So it occurred to me one day I could make a shelf out of it. So I made a shelf, storage shelf. And when it's not in use, it can be up there. And that's pretty much what I did for the nesting boxes install. All I did for roosting was just a couple of studs that I stuck across the 36-inch high boards. And that's about it. But I still have feed and water stations to go, and I want to put some solar lights in here, solar charged battery lights. So I think I'm going to do that next.